The discovery. The silent hunt. Captain Zara Kane pressed her palm against the cold metal of the observation deck window, watching the endless black void stretch before her salvage ship. The Void Runner, her violet eyes, a trait of her Nexari heritage, scanned the debris field that floated like scattered bones in the darkness. 3 months they had been hunting through this forgotten sector of space, following old star charts and whispered rumors of ancient technology. Captain, called Jex, her Cytherian engineer, his 4 arms working simultaneously across multiple control panels. I'm detecting something unusual. The readings are strange. Zara moved to the scanner station where her pilot, a young Tyrillian named Pip, was frowning at the display. His scaled green skin had taken on a worried hue. It's massive, Captain. Far too large to be natural debris. But it's not showing up on any of our identification systems. Through the viewport, they could see it now, a dark shape against the stars, longer than 3 city blocks, and shaped like a blade cutting through space. Its hull was black as the void itself, scared by what looked like centuries of micro-meteorite impacts and battles long forgotten. But what made Zora's breath catch was the script along its side, barely visible but still there after untold years. UES Sovereign, she read aloud, her universal translator struggling with the ancient text. United Earth Ship. The crew fell silent. Everyone in the galaxy knew the stories of humanity, the mysterious species that had vanished from known space over 8,000 years ago. They had left behind ruins on dead worlds, fragments of technology that even the most advanced civilizations couldn't fully understand, and a reputation that still made hardened warriors pause in respect. Humans, whispered Nyx, their draconic security chief, his reptilian features showing unusual nervousness. We should leave this place, Captain. Nothing good comes from disturbing the dead. But Zara had not become the most successful salvage captain in 3 sectors by running from opportunity. Prep the boarding pods. We're going aboard. The awakening. The airlock of the human vessel opened with a hiss that seemed to echo with the weight of millennia. The Void Runner's crew stepped into corridors that were both alien and familiar. The basic layout followed standard starship design, but everything was built on a scale that spoke of a species that thought in terms of centuries rather than years. Emergency lighting flickered to life as they moved deeper into the ship, their footsteps creating the first sounds these halls had heard in ages. The walls were lined with strange materials that seemed to absorb their scanner beams, and the air carried a metallic taste that spoke of advanced life support systems still functioning after impossible spans of time. How is this ship still powered? Pip asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Jex consulted his readings. The power source is unlike anything in our databases. It's not fusion, not antimatter, not even zero-point energy. It's something else entirely. They found the bridge near the ship's center, a vast chamber dominated by a command chair that faced a wall of dark screens. But it was what they found in the ship's medical bay that changed everything. The cryogenic chamber was still active, its blue glow painting the walls in ethereal light. Through the transparent aluminum, they could see a figure in perfect preservation. A human male, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a uniform of deep blue with insignia they didn't recognize. His face was peaceful, as if he were merely sleeping. It's he. Pip started to ask. Alive, Jex confirmed, his instruments showing impossible readings. All biological functions are suspended, but he's very much alive. Zara studied the chamber's control panel. Despite being of alien design, the interface was surprisingly intuitive. Perhaps the humans had designed it to be operated by other species. Can we wake him? The systems seem to be automated, Jex replied. It's as if the ship has been waiting for someone to find it. Before anyone could object, Zara pressed the activation sequence. The chamber hissed, releasing vapors that had been suspended in perfect balance for millennia. Slowly, impossibly, the human began to stir. First contact. Captain Marcus Reed opened his eyes to see faces he didn't recognize staring down at him. Alien faces, but not hostile ones. His hand moved instinctively to where his sidearm should be, but found only empty air. The alien stepped back, giving him space as he sat up in the cryogenic chamber. "Easy," said one of them, a female with violet eyes and dark hair. She was speaking in a language he didn't recognize, but somehow he understood every word. "We're not here to harm you. I'm Captain Zara Kane of the salvage vessel Void Runner." Marcus looked around the medical bay, taking in the sight of his ship after what felt like a very long sleep. Salvage vessel. His voice was rough from disuse, but steady. "How long was I out?" The aliens exchanged glances. The violet-eyed one, Zara, spoke carefully. "According to our dating systems, your ship has been drifting here for approximately 8,000 standard years." 8,000 years. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, processing this information. It meant the plan had worked, at least partially. Humanity had successfully gone into hiding, leaving behind only guardians like himself to watch and wait. "You're human," said another alien, this one with scaled green skin. "We thought your species was extinct." "Not extinct," Marcus said, standing slowly. His muscles responded perfectly. The cryogenic systems had done their job well. "Hidden. We had our reasons." He looked at each of them in turn. "What year is it by the Galactic Standard Calendar?" "Cycle 9847 of the Third Galactic Era," Zara replied. Marcus nodded, close to what he had expected. "And the galaxy? Is it at peace?" "Relatively," Zara said. "The major powers maintain a balance. There are conflicts, but nothing on the scale of the old wars." "Good." Marcus moved to a wall panel and placed his hand on it. Immediately, the Sovereign came alive around them. Lights brightened, screens activated, and a low hum filled the air as systems that had been dormant for millennia returned to full power. "My name is Captain Marcus Reed, commanding officer of the United Earth Ship Sovereign. I am the guardian of this sector, and I've been waiting a very long time." "Guardian against what?" Zara asked. Marcus turned to face them, his expression grave. "Against something that should have stayed dead. Something that consumed entire civilizations before humanity learned how to fight it." He moved to the bridge, the aliens following. "Tell me, have there been any reports of ships or stations simply vanishing? No distress calls, no debris, just gone." Zara felt a chill run down her spine. "There have been some incidents in the Outer Rim territories, ships disappearing without a trace. The authorities assumed it was pirates or equipment failures." "It's not pirates," Marcus said, activating the ship's long-range sensors. "And it's not equipment failure." The main screen lit up, showing a star map of the local sector. Several systems were marked in red. "The Devourers are waking up." "The ancient enemy." The name hung in the air like a curse. Marcus explained as he worked at the ship's controls, bringing more systems online with each passing moment. The Sovereign was not just a warship. It was a fortress, a research station, and a monitoring post all combined into one incredible vessel. 8,000 years ago, humanity encountered something that shouldn't exist, Marcus began. Ships that consumed energy and matter, converting it into more of themselves. They moved through space like a plague, leaving empty systems in their wake. No one knew where they came from or what they wanted. They simply devoured everything in their path. "How did humanity stop them?" asked Nix, the draconic security chief. "We didn't stop them," Marcus replied grimly. "We hurt them badly enough that they retreated to dark space, beyond the edge of the galaxy, to heal and wait. Humanity paid a terrible price for that victory. Rather than risk another such war, we made a choice. We withdrew from galactic civilization, went into hiding, and left behind guardians like myself to watch for signs of their return. And now they're back," Zara said. "Beginning to return," Marcus corrected. "These disappearances are just scouts, testing the galaxy's defenses. The main force is still dormant, but they won't stay that way for long. He pulled up tactical displays showing the missing ships and stations. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for. The Devourers were systematically probing the galaxy's outer defenses, learning what new species existed, what technologies had been developed in their absence. "What do we do?" Pip asked, his voice small. Marcus looked at each of them in turn. "We prepare, and we hope that 8,000 years of preparation will be enough." The Sovereign shuddered slightly as its main engines came online for the first time in millennia. Outside, space itself seemed to ripple around the massive vessel as it prepared to move. "Captain Kane," Marcus said formally, "I'm afraid your salvage operation has just become something much more important. You've awakened a Guardian, and now you're part of something bigger than any of us." Zara looked at her crew, seeing the fear and uncertainty in their faces, but she also saw something else: determination. They were explorers and survivors, and they had just stumbled into the greatest adventure in galactic history. "What do you need us to do?" she asked. Marcus smiled for the first time since awakening, and in that smile was the echo of humanity's ancient strength. "Help me warn the galaxy. Help me gather allies. And help me prepare for a war that will decide the fate of every living thing in known space." As the Sovereign began to move through space, its ancient engines humming with power that defied understanding, Zara realized that their simple salvage mission had just become the opening chapter of humanity's return to the galactic stage. And this time, they wouldn't be hiding. The Guardian was awake, and the real battle was about to begin. The ancient enemy returns, the galactic awakening. News of the human warship spread through galactic communication networks like wildfire. Within hours of Zara's initial report to the Salvage Guild, every major government, military organization, and intelligence agency in known space was scrambling to verify the impossible claim. A living human, awake after 8 millennia, commanding a warship that predated most current civilizations. On Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Coalition, emergency sessions were called. In the towering crystal spires where representatives from 100 worlds gathered, fear mixed with curiosity as ancient historical records were pulled from deep archives. The humans had been legend, myth, stories told to explain ruins on distant worlds and technologies that couldn't be replicated. Ambassador Thren of the Veltar hegemony, his crystalline features reflecting the chamber's light, stood before the assembled delegates. "If this report is accurate, we are dealing with something unprecedented. The historical records of human military capability are concerning." "Concerning is an understatement," interrupted General Kess of the Draconic Imperium, her scales darkening with agitation. "The old war records speak of human vessels that could crack planets, if even 1/10 of those stories are true." Meanwhile, aboard the Sovereign, Marcus Reeves stood in the ship's vast communication center, watching dozens of screens showing news feeds from across the galaxy. The reactions were exactly what he had expected: fear, wonder, and the kind of political maneuvering that had plagued galactic civilization since its inception. "They're scared," observed Zara, who had remained aboard the human vessel along with her crew. The Void Runner now traveled in formation with the Sovereign, dwarfed by the ancient warship, but still maintaining its independence. "They should be," Marcus replied, not taking his eyes from the screens. "But not of us. Not anymore." He turned to address the mixed crew that had formed around him. Zara's original salvage team plus volunteers from several species who had arrived over the past few days. Word had spread through the independent spacer community, and many had come seeking to be part of history. "The political response was expected," Marcus continued. "What concerns me more are these." New displays activated, showing sensor readings from across the galactic rim. In the past week, 12 more ships had vanished without trace. The pattern was becoming clearer and more urgent. The Shadow Fleet, deep in the void between galaxies, in the cold darkness where no star's light had ever reached, something ancient stirred. The Devourers had waited in patient hibernation, their biomechanical forms slowly healing from wounds inflicted 8,000 years before. They were not truly alive in any sense that organic beings would understand, nor were they purely mechanical. They were something else, something that converted matter and energy into more of themselves, driven by an imperative that transcended normal concepts of hunger or desire. The first scout ships had already crossed into the galaxy's outer rim, testing defenses and sampling the new species that had evolved in their absence. What they found pleased the vast intelligence that coordinated their actions. The galaxy had grown soft in their absence. The species that now dominated known space had never faced true extinction, never been forced to evolve or die. But there was something else in their reports, something that caused the Devourer fleet to pause in its slow awakening. The energy signature was familiar, ancient, carrying the taste of old battles and bitter defeats. Somewhere in the galaxy, humans still existed. The great ships began to move. Unlikely alliances. The meeting took place in neutral space, aboard a massive station that had been hastily converted from a trading post to a diplomatic venue. Representatives from the major galactic powers gathered in an atmosphere of barely controlled tension, while the sovereign held position nearby, its presence a constant reminder of what they were dealing with. Marcus entered the main conference chamber wearing his formal uniform, updated with rank insignia that predated most of the governments represented at the table. He was accompanied by Zara and a small honor guard, but his mere presence seemed to fill the vast space. "Honored delegates," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's advanced acoustics. "I am Captain Marcus Reed of the United Earth Navy. I come before you not as a conqueror or a threat, but as a guardian fulfilling an ancient duty." High Counselor Vex of the Altarian Republic, her insectoid features unreadable, clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "You claim to represent a government that vanished millennia ago. By what authority do you speak for humanity?" "By the authority of one who has watched over this galaxy for 8,000 years, Marcus replied calmly. "And by the authority of necessity. The Devourers are returning, and every moment we spend in political debate is another moment they use to grow stronger." He activated a holographic display showing the missing ships and the pattern of their disappearances. These are not random pirate attacks or equipment failures. This is reconnaissance by an enemy that once consumed entire star systems. They are testing your defenses, learning your capabilities, preparing for a full invasion. "Even if we accept your claims," said Chancellor Borak of the Terran Colonial Federation, his cybernetic implants whirring softly, "what would you have us do? Our combined fleets number in the hundreds of thousands. Surely that is sufficient to deal with any threat." Marcus's expression grew grim. "Chancellor, your largest warships mass perhaps 50,000 tons. The Devourer capital ships mass over 50 million tons. Your most powerful weapons can destroy a city. Theirs can crack a world's crust. You are not prepared for what is coming." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Admiral Zenth of the Aquatic Alliance spoke, her translated voice carrying the weight of deep-sea authority. "What do you propose?" "Unity," Marcus said simply. "Set aside your territorial disputes, your trade wars, your political rivalries. Share your technologies, coordinate your defenses, and trust that humanity has spent 8,000 years preparing for this moment." "And what has humanity prepared?" asked General Cass, leaning forward in her chair. Marcus touched a control on his wrist device. Throughout the galaxy, hidden transmitters that had lain dormant for millennia suddenly activated. On worlds thought to be barren, in asteroid fields dismissed as worthless, in the hearts of gas giants where no one had ever thought to look, ancient human installations came online. "We prepared everything," Marcus said as the display showed hundreds of new contacts appearing on long-range sensors. Shipyards, weapons platforms, research stations, an entire shadow infrastructure built over thousands of years, waiting for this day. The delegates stared in shock at the scope of humanity's hidden presence. It was as if an entire civilization had been watching them from the shadows, preparing for a war that most had thought was myth. The first battle. The Devourer scout fleet emerged from dark space at the edge of the Kepler sector, a region known for its mining colonies and trade routes. 50 vessels, each the size of a small moon, began their systematic advance toward inhabited worlds. Their intent was clear: to test the galaxy's response and harvest resources for the main fleet's arrival. The colonial defense forces responded bravely but inadequately. Energy beams that could slice through battleship armor barely scratched the Devourer hulls. Nuclear warheads that could level cities produced no visible effect on the alien vessels. Within hours, 3 colonies had been completely consumed, their populations and infrastructure converted into raw materials for the invaders. That's when the Sovereign arrived. Marcus had pushed his ancient vessel to its limits, covering impossible distances in mere hours using technologies that the current galaxy had forgotten. As alarms blared throughout the colonial defense fleet, the massive human warship materialized from hyperspace like an avenging angel. All ships, this is Captain Reed of the UES Sovereign. Marcus broadcast on all frequencies. You are ordered to fall back to minimum safe distance. We'll handle this. Handle this, came the reply from Admiral Torres of the Colonial Defense Force. Captain, there are 50 of those things out there. Your ship is impressive, but... Admiral, Marcus interrupted, please trust me. The Sovereign moved forward, its ancient hull gleaming under the light of the local star. To the watching defenders, it seemed impossible that one ship, however large, could face such odds. But Marcus Reed had not spent 8,000 years sleeping in passive wait. He had trained, studied, and prepared for exactly this moment. Sovereign I, he commanded, initiate Protocol Omega. Authorization, Reed Alpha 77. Protocol Omega initiated, replied a voice that spoke in perfect harmony with the ship's systems. All weapon systems online. Defensive fields at maximum. Target acquisition complete. What happened next redefined the watching galaxy's understanding of warfare. The Sovereign didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, space itself seemed to ripple around the Devourer fleet. Reality twisted, folded, and compressed. The alien vessels, each the size of a small city, simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, not vaporized, but removed from the universe entirely. In 30 seconds, 50 Devourer ships had been eliminated without firing a single traditional shot. How? Whispered Admiral Torres over the comm. Dimensional displacement weaponry, Marcus replied calmly. We had 8,000 years to improve on our old designs. Humanity's return. In the aftermath of the battle, as rescue ships tended to the surviving colonies and scientists tried to understand what they had witnessed, Marcus stood in the Sovereign's observation lounge with Zara and her crew. Through the massive windows, they could see the first ships of humanity's hidden fleet beginning to appear, vessels that combined technologies 8,000 years in the making with designs that spoke of a species that had never stopped preparing for war. You could have revealed yourselves at any time, Zara said. You could have prevented countless conflicts, guided the galaxy's development, and made the galaxy dependent on us, Marcus replied. That wasn't the point. The point was to let you grow strong enough to survive what's coming. The scout fleet was nothing compared to what's still out there in dark space. How many? Asked Nix, the draconic security chief who had become something of a tactical advisor to the human captain. Marcus consulted a data pad showing long-range sensor readings from the galactic edge. Conservative estimate. 10 million ships, possibly more. The number hung in the air like a physical weight. Even with humanity's hidden fleet and the combined forces of galactic civilization, the odds seemed impossible. But, Marcus continued, a slight smile playing across his features, they made one crucial mistake. They assumed that 8,000 years of peace had made the galaxy weak. They assumed that hiding meant we had given up. They're about to learn why humanity earned its reputation the first time. He turned to face the assembled crew, representing a dozen different species, all united now by the magnitude of what they faced. The real war is about to begin. And this time, we're not running. This time, we end it. Outside, more human ships continued to appear, their ancient hulls bearing the scars of forgotten battles and the promise of conflicts yet to come. The galaxy had awakened to find itself under the protection of guardians who had never truly left, who had spent millennia preparing for this exact moment. The Devourers were returning, but they would find a galaxy very different from the one they had left 8,000 years before. They would find a galaxy protected by humanity. And this time, humanity was ready for war. As the Sovereign turned toward the galactic rim, its sensors already detecting the first stirrings of the main Devourer fleet, Marcus Reed smiled. 8,000 years of waiting were about to end, and the greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin. The ancient Guardian was no longer alone.